I start with a big thank you to you. Pastor Dan mentioned about, he phrased it in terms of what I did, but you realize and I realize that I'm only a vehicle. I want to say a big thank you to all of you for the way you supported the mission trips. Through the years, certainly this past January, you came behind alongside April, saying she's not here to enjoy this as well. But you helped send her to Uganda along with Chuck Lawrence and I. And then just, about a month ago, less than a month ago, preceding that, you were very generous and helpful in sending Charmaine along with us to Haiti. And I thought we'd start this time together with her sharing a little with you. And Charmaine, if you can come up here, get a little of her thoughts and reactions. And I prompted her a little earlier about what we are going to do. Okay, so you've been wanting to go to Haiti with me for some time. Actually, how long have you been bugging me about this?
I have been interested in going to Haiti ever since I was a kid, and I heard about it in PBS and just walked to church. But I became legitimately interested as I grew closer to the age 15, which is when I was allowed to go.
So, what's the attraction? What's the interest? Why would you want to leave these nice surroundings and head south?
Well, I always wanted to help other people who didn't have the resources to help themselves or that needed help. And Haiti is just somewhere that definitely could use help.
And so we spent about 10 days down there. You had some idea of what you were getting into. Probably got some things you didn't know about. Was there anything particular that stood out as a big surprise to you that you weren't expecting?
Something that was a big surprise for me was the way that people there were very proud of what they could do and very proud of what little they had, and they took pride in what they had, and that they were happy with what little they had and didn't need much. Like, we have TVs and things, and if we go without our phone for a day, sometimes we get upset. But these people don't even worry about that half the time.
So what did you do there?
We did a lot of kind of minor construction things. So we installed some toilets, and I painted a lot.
What sort of memories do you bring back? What do you think a year from now, when you think back on this trip to Haiti, what's going to come to mind?
The people there were very kind that I interacted with. I didn't get to interact with a lot, but definitely all the people that I met down there were life-changing to me. And I will definitely remember all that we got done and our team and how proud I was of what we got to do there.
Anything else you want to share with us?
I would just like to thank everyone for the support that they gave me to go to the trip, because it was a lot of money and I got a lot of financial help from a lot of people in this church.
Thank you. So, I want to share some slides with you. If you bring up the first one here. So this started out being a presentation about Uganda, and then while that was in process, we took this trip to Haiti, and so I figured we're going to jam this all in together. This is going to be a fun, fast ride. Because I'm supposed to condense 2 weeks in Uganda and 10 days in Haiti into 15 minutes. Well, let's see. We were in Haiti. That's the 4 of the 5 of us that were on the truck going from the airport to the Ortliff Center, which is where we stayed the first night. This is Dustin and Nancy Stevens, their children Ainsley, Piper, and Cora, and Nancy's mother, who was visiting there. They host the Ortliff Center. This is a place where we leave the mainland on a boat to cross to the island, and we jump right into oh no, Charmaine had a chance to get in the water here. And one of the few places in the Gulf around Haiti there that has some decent water is right there at the Ortliff Center, and so it's a great place for us to, those of us that want to jump in the water. and get cooled off and see some interesting little underwater creatures. But 2 days later on the island, it's back to work. Charmaine mentioned replacing toilets, and so there's some yucky work to go with that. And we actually put her to work wire brushing some of the T-bolts because we weren't sure we could get replacement T-bolts, so we might have to reuse what was there. So that was a great way for her to spend some time in the shade. Those are the old ones that we took out. And they'll probably find use in the hospital. Another thing we did, a couple guys built a roof over the place where the pressure tank for the water to the guest house is, and Miles was wanting to get that protected from the environment. So they put the rafters in tin and plywood sides and painted it. Also got up on the roof of the guest house to try to patch some leaks, because in one of the rains there was some rain damage to one of the ceiling tiles, and in fact we ended up replacing one, and that gave Charmaine another job to do some painting. We had to go to the hardware store. This is one of the hardware stores in the Sangalea and Loganoff. Gordon Argott's one of the guys that went with us. He's from the Pocono Lake area. He owns a hardware store up there. So we took him along so he could see how they do hardware stores in Haiti. Suggested to him he might want to expand his business and start a branch there on Loganoff. He's still thinking about that. Also put to work building a door to replace one of the ones on the depot there. And once it was up, of course, it needed painted. So we called on Charmaine, and this time it seemed like such fun that two of the friends she had down there had to get together. I'm not sure why it took 3 people to paint that door. Another project we did was to place some vent fans in the bathrooms of the guest house. Small rooms, no ventilation, you take a shower, and it's like a sauna. So hopefully this will make that a little less so. We did take a walk through the market in town. I was impressed with all the varieties of beans and grains and whatever it was to get there. Also, if you happen to leave any toiletries at home, chances are you could replenish them from the supply there. On Saturday morning, we took a walk up the ravine out of the city. This goes up to a reservoir where the water's captured and then it's piped down into the city, about 13 fountains throughout the town, where people can get some clean water. We weren't the only ones out that morning. We saw a variety of wildlife there. This is one of the shots as a dining room, and the table there, our team, and some of the Miles Bodish family. There's a couple at the end who were down there from Central South Carolina who've been down for several months at a time. He's down there now teaching computer science and your computer usage and statistics to the nurses that are in the Sunday morning we worshiped there at the Wesleyan Church of Sangalea. Couldn't understand much of what they were saying. This was Haitian Mother's Day, and so there were all kinds of special songs with the ladies and the youth and the ladies dancing down the aisle singing. You can't see much there, but up front there's the choir director for the youth up on the chairs directing them in their songs. The afternoon, some of the folks rode the Wesleyan out to a coral reef sandbar not too far out from port, and spent the afternoon getting a suntan or a sunburn. And then finally on the following Monday we headed back to the Ortho Center. Seems like we weren't all the worse for wear for the 11 days we spent there, but that's the crew that we had. So that was our 10 days in Portland. And now on to Uganda. January 11th to 25th. This is going to be a real challenge. Because I do want to, at the end of these slides, I do want to share some reflections, which I think probably is as important as the slides that we have. So we'll take off here. I subtitled this is about Moses of Busia. Not Moses of Sinai, although we'll hear from him later, but Moses of Busia. Busia is a city there in Uganda. And this is Moses along with Chuck Lawrence and I. And in the course of 2 weeks there, we came to really love and appreciate and develop a pretty strong friendship with Moses. But to get there, we had about 25 hours of travel, from Philadelphia to Detroit to Amsterdam to Kigali and finally to Entebbe in Uganda. About 25 hours later, we managed to land in town. We still had a ways to go because we were going to be in Kigali, which is about the south central point of the area there. And in preparation for this, we knew we were going over to put a roof on this church. First look, you look and say, well, it needs a whole lot more than a roof. The walls weren't finished, and so that went on, and we had some correspondence with our Global Partners missionary there. All kinds of emails, questions, and answers back and forth. But so we landed in Entebbe and had to get to the capital there, Kampala, and we spent probably most of Friday morning into Friday afternoon shopping to get the stuff we needed. We got a propane stove, got a refrigerator, because they prepared meals for us, lunch and dinner, right there on site where we were working. Need to get some tools, some levels, some hammers and saws. And I thought we need to get some screws, because, okay, we're going to put a roof on it. Well, I'm not a contractor, I'm not a carpenter. The only experience I had was the trusses we built in Haiti. And cut the pieces, fit them together, put them between plywood and screw them together. So Chuck and I are in this, I call it a Target wannabe, sort of a multi-purpose store that has a few aisles of hardware. And we picked up these tools and looked for screws, and there weren't a whole lot. But there were some selections there, so we found one pretty good-sized box of screws that looked like they would work. In the course of our discussion, Fred Cromer, who's the Global Partners missionary there and served as our English-speaking host, says, you know, I've never seen them use screws too much here. Says they're always using 5-inch nails and 6-inch nails. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what to do with those. So Chuck and I stood there in the aisle trying to figure, what do we do here now? We're 3.5 hours away from our work site. If we get up there and need screws, it's going to be kind of tough to get them. On the other hand, these people, Fred says, they don't use screws. Well, fortunately, Chuck and I had spent enough time in Haiti to understand that North Americans don't go to one of these countries to tell people how to do their work. All right? We go to those countries to come alongside to help them, encourage them. So we finally put the box of screws back on the shelf. And we go to Kamali. And I don't have a clue what's going on. We get to our accommodations, which are really pretty nice. In fact, I would say our accommodations here were nicer than what we have in Haiti. And logging off on Haiti, the new guest house is a pretty nice place. Some of you have been there. But here we had individual single rooms and a tile bathroom that had an on-demand electric hot water heater. Don't get that in Haiti. So on the trip, about a 45-minute to an hour drive from where we were staying to where we were working, variety of sites, you know, a lot of fields with rice, beans, and other things growing. There's livestock, not always that many at a time, but frequently see livestock grazing. Here's some bricks that are being out drying in the sun with some leaves over them to sort of monitor the temperature. Well, right along the road was this kiln. It must have had 200 or 300 bricks in them that were being cured. And this is a typical site driving through one of the small villages that houses right along the way. And always a well. And wherever there's a well, there's a line of people with these 5-gallon yellow jugs, and kids find ways to entertain themselves. When we finally get to the church in Kamuli, they were expecting us. And the ladies were singing and dancing and welcoming us to come there. The lady on the right is the pastor of the church there, Harriet. And she was leading the crew. And we saw they had done some work. This is what it looked like when we got there. So they had finished the walls. They put a little portico out front. We went inside and met Moses of Busia. Come to find out, he was busy, he was building trusses, he had a half a dozen guys working already. Come to find out, he's a contractor. He's a carpenter. He's a mason. He's a roofer. He's built dozens, if not scores, of trusses for roofs, not using screws. Needless to say, Chuck and I were extremely relieved. Hey, our job, piece of cake. All we had to do, work along with a great guy, great friend. Very different ways of constructing trusses, and this is just a little look at it. They take, obviously you have to put a couple pieces together to get the width you need for the building. They take these two 2x6s or 2x8s and cut a very shallow angle on them, and then fit them together, nail it a little bit, and then start wrapping this 1/2 1/2-inch steel and nailing it right around the joint. Slick, huh? Banding, they call it. It turns out they didn't have much use for the screws, the screwdrivers, and the drills that we took. But they did enjoy the fact that we took along a couple power saws. And that was a new thing for them. So they worked hard at it, building the trusses, build one on the floor, build them on top of each other, ended up putting 11 of them together, which we needed, and marked where the pros were going to go. And we took a break for Sunday, went to visit some churches. Interesting variability in church styles. That's one of the buildings, kind of small, interesting natural ventilation. This one is a little more finished, plastered on the outside, and always full. This is one from 2014 when I was there, just to give you an idea of another style or another construction thing. So we're back to work on Monday, and this fastening the header board is another one of these odd things. I was used to having rebar sticking up through the last course of concrete, and you drill holes in the header bar and put it out there and bend the rebar over. Here, they poured a ring beam, 7 courses of block below the top, and just out of sight there. Then they make a hole in the wall underneath it and run this 1/2-inch steel strap down under the ring beam and then up over the header bar. But it worked. Oh, we have laundromat right there on site too. So a couple times we bring our dirty, muggy clothes, and while we were working in another set, they were washing them for us. By the end of By the end of Tuesday, we were putting up the trusses, one end at a time, rotated up, and was I ever glad I was on the ground and not up on the top there. But by the end of day Tuesday, I think it was, we had all 11 trusses up, and so we were feeling pretty good. Wednesday was and this is, the cooks were busy right there on site too, because like I said, they fixed lunch and dinner right there on site for us. And, made for late night getting home though. Wednesday we're up on the roof setting the perlas, and I had to get up there, I mean just for a photo, nothing else, for a photo, okay? I actually spent about a half a day up there and managed, believe it or not, to drive a 5 or 6 inch nail without bending it into there. So they went up, while they're going up, Moses is doing his work as a mason, bricking in the gable ends. Ladies were in there right as well, carrying the block as needed, making sure the bucket for water for mixing concrete was kept full. And I'm not sure what this lady was doing, but I wanted to make sure I stayed quite a ways away. But they were right there with us. They sing. There was a time they were carrying lumber from outside in, and they were dancing and singing as they were lugging these 12-foot 2x4s in. So Moses continued and others continued his work, blocking that in, and progress was being made. Meanwhile, nothing for Chuck and I to do but sit back and enjoy the sun, drink some water, and watch them work. Not quite, but they really did a good job. So Friday afternoon, mid-afternoon, this truck pulls up, loaded with tin for the roof, 13 welded windows and 2 doors, all of which was to go in there. So Moses and some of his guys, in their bare feet, get up on the roof and start applying tin. I was glad again that was not one of my skills. And meanwhile, the rest of us were tailoring the openings to hold the windows. Some of them were not quite big enough. Some were a little too big. Some had to have blocks chipped out because the windows had iron ears sticking out from them to secure them in place. So you make the opening how you should, try to get it to fit in there, block it with 2x4s and wedges and whatever, and then the fellow comes around and fills in all the open spaces with concrete. And at the end, looks like a professional job. So Friday, Saturday, everybody's working hard. By Saturday it was finished, I don't know, 5:30 or so, the ladies come in and start clearing out the bed, getting ready for the celebration. Sunday was a big day. The church is done, and it's time to party. So we pulled up on Sunday morning, and that's part of the crowd that was there. all ages. I think the call to worship started about 10:30. And there was a lot of singing. Children sang, the young adults sang, the ladies sang. A lot of speaking. It seemed like everybody, local church leaders, district leaders, national leaders, local government officials, everybody had to talk. And they all had to say, thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you very much. And I think by the time the benediction was said, it was about 3:20 in the afternoon. About 5.5 hours or so of celebration. But they had a church that had a roof. And they don't know if it had a roof. It had windows and doors.
Amen.
They were happy. And I think this is probably one of the nicest Wesleyan churches in the country of Uganda. You guys helped too. There's a picture of Fred Cromer as our DP missionary, but the rest of them are local, national, and district church leaders. So Sunday afternoon we headed for Busia, which in some sense was unfortunate because it was sort of the wrong way to go to get to the airport. But it was a good way to go because it's really the national headquarters for the Wesleyan Church of Uganda. It's where the national superintendent is. It's where there's a Bible Institute where Fred Cromer is teaching. So we stayed there in the Wesleyan Bible Institute hosted by Fred and Carol Cromer. Also had a chance to do some sightseeing there. I think probably the largest Wesleyan church in the country is here in Busia. Busia is right on the border of Kenya and Uganda. It's a good-sized church. I think 4 or 5 pastors on staff. Also a school. Many churches have schools there. And across the road there's a children's home that Prosi Hamire, who's the wife of the national superintendent, has sort of spearheaded. We also had a chance a couple guys took us on a tour of downtown Busia. And since it's on the border, we were able just to walk across the bridge or through not much of a security checkpoint into Kenya just to say we were there. April was really intrigued with these modes of transportation. You know, April's an adventuresome kind of lady. So she talked her way into at least sitting and having a picture taken of the motorcycle. Fortunately, that's just where she stayed. So on Tuesday morning, about 6 a.m. Ugandan time, we got up from Busia and we started our trek back to the airport. About an hour and a half, less than an hour out of Busia, the van stopped. There were some problems with the transmission. And so while we sat by the side of the road waiting for the mechanic to come and make the repair in place, we were entertained by these baboons. And in this particular locale, very, very common. But then finally we were on our way, stopped in Jinja to do some shopping, have to eat, and check out the big tourist attraction, which is the source of the Nile. Lake Victoria is the southern border of Uganda. That's the headwaters of the Nile River. And so here's the beginning of the Nile as the waters leave Lake Victoria and begin a 4,000-mile journey north of the Mediterranean Sea. And of course, April being April, she thought she wanted to be baptized in the Nile, but we sort of talked her out of that, but she was satisfied with getting a picture. So it was about a 6-hour travel altogether from Busia back to Jinja, Kampala, and Tebet. Of course, we stopped in Jinja for a while, but 6 hours before we got to the airport, and then had that flight home again. So I'm figuring from about 6 o'clock Tuesday morning when we got up in Uganda until about 5:30 Wednesday night when I finally got home. I think I went for about 44 hours. It was a great experience. Great experience. One of the lasting memories for me, certainly, was Moses. Moses of Busia. And through those 2 weeks, we had a good time talking together. Just a wonderful man, gentle spirit, very capable, very knowledgeable, very skillful, and had a decent command of English, so it was relatively easy for us to talk. And of course, this was taken Sunday morning. You know, it's all over, folks. You know, we're just getting ready to wrap it up. And we had a great time chatting. He's someone I remember for a while. Just quickly, some reflections on the trip here. I was thinking during the whole process, from when we started planning, which was about a year and a half in planning, I'd gone through a whole series of emotions. You know, first, oh, this is great, excitement. We're going to a new place, meet new people, do exciting things. And then I start this correspondence with Fred Cromer there, and this is by email, 8 time zones away. I'm sleeping, he's awake. And so I'd send him email, but again, he's in Lucia. His primary purpose is teaching, not hosting teams. He'd have to go to the national superintendent to get answers to the questions that I had, and sometimes somebody'd have to go to Kamui, which was 3 hours away. So it was a slow process, frustrating at times. Because you'd ask a question, the answer would come back, and it wasn't quite complete, so you'd ask, we need to get the idea. But as time went on, we sort of got confident. I saw the pictures, got some dimensions, some idea of what they wanted for trusses, not really enough, and began to get a little confident. Okay, maybe we can pull this off. We've been to Haiti, we built trusses, we can do that kind of thing. And I already told you what happened in Kampala, when we were looking for the screws. They don't use screws here. We're a third of the way around the world. They've been waiting for 10 years for this roof. They're looking to us to get the roof. We don't know the language, and I haven't a clue how we're going to do this. And then, of course, we see Moses. Everything's great. Big relief. And we have the 5.5-hour celebration on Sunday, and all is good. To me, the key thing is each point along the way, we kept moving forward. Didn't have all the answers, but kept moving forward. And again, to be there that day, 300 people for 5.5 hours, thanking God because a 10-year prayer had been answered, it was great stuff. Of course, people were thanking us, right? And we're thinking, not us, folks. We didn't realize it during the time we were preparing, and even there. But our skill, our knowledge, our experience had nothing to do with the difference that we made. Oh, we made a difference, a huge one. But it wasn't that. Moses had the skill. He knew what he was doing. He had the experience. He got the... In some sense, we would not have needed to be there for that roof to go on. And yet, had we not done that, the roof wouldn't have been on. Because the difference was that we did what we could. We didn't know at the time how little. We thought our difference was going to be different than it was. But what was the difference? With your help, and the help of the churches across the Penn Jersey district, because they were funding the Jesus Film Partnership, which helped to pay for the materials for this. But with your help and the help of churches across the Penn Jersey district, we delivered $10,000 to them for material and supplies. Plus another $2,000 for a generator and some power tools, some of which they'll use. They might learn to use drills and drill directors, etc. In addition to that, with your help, we raised $7,500 so the 3 of us could spend 2 weeks alongside people in Kamuli, Uganda, so they would know that there were hundreds of people in North America that knew about them, that knew about their needs, and wanted to help them build the kingdom of heaven in Uganda. Well, just as my emotions had a huge range of expression throughout this trip, I was reminded, our Christian journey is like that. Don't you go through different emotions? Sometimes you're on the mountaintop, sometimes you have a clue what's going on. I was reminded of a song that I heard a few years ago. Actually, I heard this probably a few decades ago. But I like it because it's a conversation about a Christian on his journey and Jesus. And I think it describes some emotions, some outlooks that are common to you and I. And I'd like to share this with you. There's a conversation Christian talking to Jesus. I traveled on a lonely road. No one seemed to care. The burden on my weary back had bowed me to despair. I often complained to Jesus how folks were treating me. Let me just ask you, you ever been there? Life's not always easy. People sometimes don't do what we'd like them to do. I often complained to Jesus how folks were treating me. And then I heard him gently say to me, my feet were oh so weary upon the Calvary road. The cross became so heavy I fell beneath the load. Be faithful, weary pilgrim, the morning I can see. Just lift your cross and follow close to me. So he walks away along the journey, and things seem to be going well, and he sees being effective and productive as a Christian wants to be. He'd feel pretty good. So this next conversation he has with Jesus. I worked so hard for Jesus, I often boast and say. I've sacrificed a lot of things to walk the narrow way. I gave up fame and fortune. I'm worth a lot to thee. Nah, we probably never do that, right? But sometimes when you think, boy, things are really going good. God's really using me. He must be lucky to have me as one of his children. I gave up fame and fortune. I'm worth a lot to thee. And then I hear him gently say to me, I left the throne of glory and counted it but loss. My hands were nailed in anger upon the cruel cross. But now we'll make the journey with your hands safe in mine. So lift your cross and follow close to me. And so he goes on the way. And as he matures in his walk and in his Christian faith, he begins to realize how much God really does love him. I mean, he really, I don't deserve what he's doing for me. He's been gracious. He has given me so much. How could I ever repay him, right? And so he says this, oh Jesus, if I die upon a foreign field someday, would be no more than love demands, no less could I repay it. No greater love hath mortal man than for a friend to die. So you get the picture? Maybe sometimes in your life you have this sense, oh, I do so much for more. I'm just going to do great things for Jesus. No greater love hath mortal man than for a friend to die. These are the words he spoke in his reply. Catch this. These next 2 lines, I just think, so capture what God's looking for from us. If just a cup of water I place within your hands, then just a cup of water is all that I demand. But if by death to living thy glory they can see, I'll take my cross and follow close to thee. Those words have stuck with me. If just a cup of water I place within your hand, then just a cup of water is all that I demand. God doesn't ask us for more than we have. God doesn't ask us for more than what he's already given us. And that reminds me of another encounter that another Moses had. Not Moses of Lucia, but Moses of Sinai a few thousand years ago. Remember the account in Exodus chapters 3 and 4? Moses tending sheep. His life is interrupted by a burning bush. And in the middle of this conversation, Moses is having a conversation with God, right? Though I'm not sure it's so much a conversation as a string of protestations that Moses is responding to God with. In the middle of all this, God asks Moses a question. You remember what it was? What is that in your hand? You know what he said? A staff. Just a staff, a shepherd's staff, a piece of wood. Its only value is for tending sheep, to nudge them along or pull them up out of the ditch. Just a piece of wood, nothing more. But you know the story. That staff became a serpent. That staff turned the waters of the Nile blood red. That staff split the waters of the Red Sea. That staff brought water from a rock. God God doesn't ask us for any more than what we have. But you know, I believe He still from time to time will ask you, and He'll ask me, what's in your hand?